Is Little Women feminist? Hey, hi, hello, how are you? I'm Pia. Today I'm going to be talking about every single Little Women adaptation because you bet your ass that I watched all of them. It is March Sisters madness, people. Happy March Sisters March. I recently watched a version of Little Women that I hadn't seen before, and then it just kind of led me down the rabbit hole of all the different adaptations of Little Women that there have been, and I wanted to make this comprehensive video about my ratings, my feelings about all of them, and put them up against each other in a March Madness style bracket. I did make a bracket, but there's a kind of different system for how we're gonna be ranking these. A few disclaimers before we get into it. Disclaimer number one, I am not a film critic. I'm not a film expert. I just watch a lot of movies. I do. Aside from watching every Little Women adaptation, I just watch over 100 movies a year, and I have taken classes in like film, but is that helping me here? Probably not, no. So when I'm just like a silly goofy girl and I'm rating these based on vibes, that's fine. These are my opinions. So if you disagree, let me know in the comments down below. The second thing, my second disclaimer to this video is there are 3 adaptations that I did not watch for this video, but I tried my hardest to watch them. That was because they are not on the internet, and I'll get to the reasons for that later. So let's get into it. Obviously, we have to talk a little bit about our author in question here, because the author of Little Women is so important. Louisa May Alcott, Lou, as she was called to her friends, is an American author, poet, and short story writer, specifically known for writing Little Women and its sequels. Did you know Little Women had sequels? I bet you. Little Men and Joe's Boys are the sequels to Little Women, in case you did not know. She was often writing about like her experiences in the Civil War and being a woman growing up and like growing up in Concord, Mass. She was the first woman to register to vote in Concord, Mass. Very cool. She contributed to the Women's Journal, and she never married or had children, which is awesome. So love that for her. I love Louisa May Alcott. She is such an interesting character, and the way that Little Women is kind of semi-autobiographical is so fascinating to me. I was doing a little bit of research into like the queering of the text, and I know that's not really this is not the video for that, but there are just like so many interesting takes. There are so many different takes and interpretations of Louisa May Alcott's work and Little Women specifically from all different types of people. It's really interesting how like queer people and lesbians have really gravitated towards her work, as well as like Christians and things like that. So it's really interesting that all these types of people really enjoy her work and get different things out of it. Have like all this stuff about, you know, should we say Louisa May Alcott, they, them, like, should we be like talking about Lou as like a queer figure, but obviously these like terms weren't really present at the time, so I'm not going to refer to her as that, but it is really interesting analysis. I read an article from the New York Times about it, so if you want to do some research on it, you can do that as well, but it's very interesting, and it kind of it ties into the Joe character, which is why I'm bringing this up, because like a lot of Louisa May Alcott is in Joe, and that's why we're talking about it. So I am going to be ranking these Little Women. I'm going from the oldest to the most current, most recent. There have been 9. Okay, so there have been 9 total adaptations for the screen of Little Women, and I'm going to be ranking them based on 5 different categories. The first being casting, second direction, third is story, 4th is characters, and 5th is romance. So each category will have a possible score of 10 points, giving the total highest possible score being 50 points. And that is how I'm going to be rating and ranking these adaptations. I'm also going to be telling you what my dream cast of Little Women would be, taking an actor or an actress from each adaptation and telling you that they are my perfect Beth, for example. So keep an eye out for that. Okay, let us start all the way back in the beginning. Let's start back in the beginning with the silent era of film. I love silent films. Okay. I'm a little bit of like a nerd about like a black and white film, about a silent film, about like Technicolor. I love like all the different innovations of film, but early cinema is so interesting to me. So there are 2 Little Women adaptations that are considered lost films. These are the adaptations from 1917 and 1918. The 1917 adaptation is described as Little Women. It is a 1917 British silent historical drama directed by Alexander Butler and starring Daisy Burrell, Mary Lincoln, and Mina Gray. Wait, Mary Lincoln is kind of ringing a bell. Is she the first lady? Okay. no connection to Abraham Lincoln because I don't know a lot about the silent films because I could not watch them because they are not anywhere. This was the first film adaptation of the 2-volume American novel, because if you didn't know, Little Women was published in 2 volumes, which is really interesting considering the implications of the second half of the story. But anyway, and it's now considered to be a lost film. So that is the 1917. I'm not going to be rating this one because I could not view it with my eyes, but I'm sure it was a banger. Okay. And then we have Little Women, the 1918 American silent drama film directed by Harley Knowles and written by Anne Maxwell, based on the same novel by Louisa May Alcott. The film stars Isabel Lamon, Dorothy Bernard, Lillian Hall, Florence Flynn, and Conrad Nagel. The film was released on November 10th, 1918 by Paramount Pictures. Again, another film that's lost to time. There is like a poster for it, which I really love. Let's talk about it. Let's actually dive into the poster because that's all we really have of it. We do have this gorgeous poster for it. It is really fascinating. So I like to think this is like a different, it says William A. Brady. Who the fuck is that? Okay, I really just want to like focus on like their outfits here and like the stylization of like their colors. Well, you can't see the colors because it's black and white. Of like how the characters are like pictured in this. Like so I'm thinking Meg is the one on the far right. I'm thinking that next to her is Beth. In the middle slash the second from the left is Joe. And then on the far left is Amy. That's my thoughts. I just don't know how to defend that, but those are my thoughts and I really wish I could see that. There are some like a couple of photos and stuff from this film, but again, it's lost to time. Do I wish I could see it? Yes, so desperately badly actually. But let's get into the movies that I could see. So we are moving on to the 1933 adaptation of Little Women. Let me give you some background on it. I will say before I get into this, my overall thought was that this movie lacks the juice. And I just had to let you know that. This is kind of where we get into the saga of Little Women adaptations having a lot of star power. They tend to have really like really great casts, really great directors, writers. Like there are big names attached to these projects, which is so awesome because like it's such an enduring story and such a like classic story that all these adaptations have like these like classic names in them, which is really awesome. Like from each time period, it's awesome to track like the 30s having like Katharine Hepburn, and then it's really cool. So obviously, like I said, Katharine Hepburn is our star of this movie. She is the main character, Jo. We also have Joan Bennett, Frances D, and Jean Parker. This is directed by George Cocker, who also directed a play adaptation of Little Women, which was written by the same people who wrote this script for Little Women, Victor Herman and Sarah Y. Mason, who are a cutie little like husband-wife writing duo. Love that for them. We have the costume designer as Walter Plunkett, who designed Jo's dress in this based on Katharine Hepburn's maternal grandmother's dress that she wore, so like giving historical accuracy. And also Joan Bennett was pregnant while filming this. Joan Bennett is Amy in this, which is kind of shocking considering how young Amy is played to be in this one, especially in the beginning. But she is pregnant. She was pregnant while they shot this. So a lot of her costumes were like made to hide her pregnancy. And she also did not tell anyone who cast her that she was pregnant when she was cast, which is kind of awesome, and that's feminism. The interior of the March home was modeled after Orchard House, which is Louisa May Alcott's Massachusetts home, and also the setting for a very famous Little Women adaptation. In total, the film cost $424,000 to make. Year-long production that took 4,000 people to make it. And it broke opening day records with 23,000 people attending and won an Oscar for Best Adaptation. So let's get into the summary. The endearing saga of the March sisters, Meg, Frances D, Jo, Katharine Hepburn, Amy, and Beth, who come of age in New England during the Civil War, is based on the classic Louisa May Alcott novel, with Mr. March away fighting for the Union cause, the girls and their beloved mother, Marmee Spring Byington, manage to keep their spirits up through dire economic and emotional crises until Joe's literary aspirations and Meg's romance with a teacher threaten to pull the sisters apart. Now, if you just read that summary, you would say, that doesn't seem very accurate to the book. Let's get into it. All right, starting with casting. The first thing is I'm gonna get it out of the way. I'm gonna be controversial for a second. I'm not gonna be super controversial in this video, but this is my really controversial opinion, and it is that the man, the myth, and the legend, Katharine Hepburn as Joe, is not good. And it's not her fault, like, that I, in general, just, like, did not enjoy this movie, but she lacked a certain, like, nuanced perspective of Joe's character, which is present, and I'm gonna say this a couple times, in, like, the older adaptations of Little Women. Like, there wasn't this, like, full-bodied understanding of Joe's character that some later adaptations kind of were trying to get at. So is it the writing? Is it the character? Is it the casting? I love Katharine Hepburn. I love her so much, but, like, I just don't see her as Joe either. I love The Philadelphia Story. Like, I love other Katharine Hepburn movies where I feel like she was really great in that role, but this role just, like, doesn't fit for me, and I don't like it. In contrast, say that Aunt March was a standout in this one. I don't know the actress who played Aunt March, but her actress was eating the whole time. I really pay special attention to, like, the side characters in these adaptations because they can really, like, make or break the movie for me. And I feel like her actress was, like, she was bringing the drama, she was giving camp, she was giving whimsy. So, like, she was, like, really pulling a lot of weight. I feel like, especially, like, Aunt March's character, Mr. Lawrence's character, like, those types of, like, side characters really do a lot in, like, making the world of Little Women. And I loved her casting. Very good. And I also hate to say this, but Beth's actress looked like she was 37 years old. She looked so old in this. And if you know Little Women, you know generally Meg is the oldest, Joe is the second oldest, Beth is the one after, and then Amy is the youngest. But Beth looked 37 years old, and she's supposed to be pretty young. You know, I think she's supposed to be like 13, I believe, in the book, at the start. And I did look it up, and the actress was 18, so I do apologize for saying that she looked 37, but there's something about it, and I'll get to it, like, probably towards the end, about how, like, the characters were kind of made up, and the conventions of the time, and the stylistic choices of, like, making these actresses look very pretty and very dolled up, which is, like, not necessary, especially for, like, a Little Women adaptation where, like, they're broke. So I'm going to give the casting a 5 out of 10. Let's move on. Now we get to the direction. This movie had some gorgeous title cards. Bring those back. We bring back, like, gorgeously illustrated, like, intricately done title cards. Like, let's bring those back, please, and thank you. I will say that this was directed by a man. And I hate to say it because the 5% of men that watch this channel who are gonna be offended, but I'm sorry to you. But I think there's a certain touch of a woman that is necessary to a Little Women movie. I'm sorry. The other thing I noted about the direction of this is they had these close-up insert shots, which I was really impressed by, because I don't know, a lot of, like, old movies I've seen, typically, like, they're pretty basically shot. They're shot basically like plays, but they had these close-up insert shots of, like, the letters, and, like, they had a really cool one of, like, the kind of, like, newspaper that the girls come up with, and I thought those were really cool additions because they were, like, kind of surprising, and I was kind of picturing just, like, the steady kind of normal shots. So I'm giving the direction a 7.5. Okay, moving on to the story of this really lacked some of the character building moments that are my personal favorites and are just, like, really important to the plot, in my opinion. Not to get, like, super into the weeds about it, but there are some things like Meg buying an expensive fabric and, like, it costing too much money, and then she has to have, like, a little tizzy with her husband about it. There was a lot about the Amy-Joe dynamic that really wasn't present in this one. We don't have Amy burning the manuscript. Kind of shocking news to a Little Women fan. Or Joe saving Amy, which is kind of like their reconciliation, how they end up forgiving each other. Amy's interest in Lori, yeah, it's not present. It's not in this movie, which is really shocking when we're gonna get to the romance portion of this movie. And then Beth and Aunt March are not in Europe. They're not. We don't see it. Hello? No, we don't see it. So we're giving the story a 5 out of 10. Let's move on to the characters, and boy do I have a lot to say. Wowie, wowie, wowie. This adaptation was lacking in the character department. We really don't get to know Joe in this adaptation, which is such a big letdown because Jo is kind of considered to be the main character, yeah, in most regards. So aside from like her authorial ambitions and drive and her love for her sisters, there's really nothing else there. Everything like from the book about like her wanting to be a boy and joining the army and being really disappointed in being a girl and all the girly things that she has to do supposedly in society, and just like lacking any kind of romantic interest is like not present in this movie, which I think is like a lot of reasons why people love Jo's character and relate to Jo's character and like things like that. She does display like a bit of affection for Laurie, which I think is really odd because she does kind of have these like physical touches with him, and it does show, I don't know, it does feel weird because then it's like, is she like leading him on in a way, or are they just like so comfortable with each other? I don't know, there's like these like kisses on cheeks, these caresses, these holding hands, and I just feel like our Jo isn't that like touchy tender in that way. I think Beth is probably the best done character in this adaptation. I think like her being like really shy is super present in this, and it's really cute. She and Amy go to the party, the New Year's party, and they have like a really cute scene where they're like on the stairs and they're like watching them dance, and she's being very shy about wanting to listen to the music and stuff like that. And I think like the distinction between Beth and Amy's character is really present in this, and I do like that. Amy has literally no character development. I know like older adaptations like don't really consider Amy that much, but she has no character development. Like there's one scene where basically in this adaptation, instead of, so the girls get like $1 from Aunt March for Christmas, and they're all like, let's buy ourselves gifts, and then they're like, no, we're gonna buy them for Marmee instead of buying like herself drawing pencils. She gets Marmee a present, which is like nice. And like I do really like the one scene where she gets punished at school, so she gets like thwacked on the back of the hand. There's another word for that, but that's all I'm thinking of at the moment. And she like tells the whole school that she's like, Marmee's gonna have a word with the teacher and da. They can't treat me like this. And she just like says something like that, and that was funny. That was very Amy of her. But other than that, not great. Giving the characters a 3. Let's get to the romance. Maybe there's a lack of chemistry between Jo and Laurie in this one, or maybe there's like actually like too much chemistry, which leads to like the misunderstanding and confusion, but they're not my favorite in this. Obviously they're not a romance. I'm gonna keep talking about them in the romance category because like that's what you're here for. I'm sorry, if you're not here for Jo and Laurie, like at least partially, I'm not discrediting the Amy girls out there, but you're definitely also here for Jo and Laurie. Anyway, they're literally the only people giving this category any points. So let's move on. Meg and Mr. Brooks, who's the teacher, who's tearing everyone apart apparently, according to the summary of this, are kind of cute. There's not a lot of like development in their relationship. They like have the first and initial, we're mixing in my mind. They have the initial like interaction and the courtship, but they don't like get into their married life at all, which is a missed opportunity. They kind of just all of a sudden have a house and twins, and they're like no conflict in their relationship, so good for them. And lastly, where this category is losing the most points is for Amy and Laurie's relationship, because it's really crazy how she didn't show any interest in Laurie, and then they all of a sudden get together in Europe off screen, might I add? We don't see this. And it's just like completely out of the blue. It's confusing and I don't like it, and I'm giving it 2 out of 10. So that is giving the 1933 adaptation of Little Women a total score of 22.5 out of 50. I'm not gonna convert these into grades because I did, but I think they're a little harsh. It is an F. Let's move on to the 1949 adaptation of Little Women, directed by Mervyn Leroy. Script and music were taken directly from the last adaptation, so we're gonna love it, obviously. I'm obviously not gonna hate it at all, yeah. It was written by the same people, but then it was also written by Sally Benson and Victor Herman, who like, I don't know, they did some tweaking. They did a little finagling, I don't know. So we have June Allison as Jo, Peter Lawford as Laurie, Margaret O'Brien as Beth, Elizabeth Taylor as Amy, Janet Leigh as Meg, Rosanna Brazzi as Professor Bayer, and Mary Astor as Marmee. This Little Women became one of the top grossing films of 1949. According to MGM Records, it earned over $4 million in the US and Canada and over $2 million overseas. It also won an Academy Award for Best Art Direction, Set, Decoration, Color. That's like 3 different categories, but that's what I read. I don't know. Okay, the description of this: the March sisters, Meg, Janet Leigh, Jo, June Allison, Beth, Margaret O'Brien, and Amy Elizabeth Taylor, struggle to make ends meet in their New England household while their father is away fighting in the Civil War. Despite harsh times, they cling to optimism, often with a neighbor, Laurie Peter Lawford, as a companion. As they mature, they face burgeoning ambitions and relationships as well as tragedy, all while maintaining their unbreakable bond. That seems like, that makes sense. I just like to compare like how these movies are like pitched or like summarized. Not that these are any like official summaries, but I just think it's interesting. Let's move on to the casting category. Okay, the cast is literally the cast of Meet Me in St. Louis. It's kind of like copy and paste, and I do adore it. Meet Me in St. Louis is one of my favorite like old movie musicals. So let me tell you how it's the same. So Marmee is the same as the mom in Meet Me in St. Louis. The dad is the same as the dad in Meet Me in St. Louis. And then Beth Margaret O'Brien is also the same, which just goes to show you that it has a lot of iconic actors from the 40s. Not to mention Elizabeth Taylor is in this. Elizabeth Taylor is blonde in this also, which is like really interesting because to me she's like a classic brunette. But anyway, I don't like Jo in this one. It could be the writing. It could be the writing. It could be the look. I don't know. She has these like micro bangs that are really just like, I've never liked a micro bang in my life. So, and then we have Elizabeth Taylor. I have to get to Elizabeth Taylor. I have written a paper about Elizabeth Taylor. I've read biographies about Elizabeth Taylor. I love this woman. Love her. She is so great as Amy. I have to say, while I'm here, I should say, I'm taking 2 actors from this adaptation and putting them in my perfect cast, putting them in my dream cast. I'm taking Elizabeth Taylor as Amy off the board. Elizabeth Taylor is my Amy, and I'm taking Margaret O'Brien as my Beth. I love them. I'm giving the casting an 8. Moving on to the direction. This also has some great title cards. I have to mention it. They're gorgeous. This is shot in Technicolor. The coloring is gorgeous. I'm a Technicolor bitch at the end of the day. And I don't know, it just felt like an older movie. It wasn't like super distracting, the direction or anything. So like, I'm giving it a 7. Moving on to the story, this movie opens with Jo coming in. She comes in, what a character entrance, I have to say. She comes in, she like jumps over the gate, she like tumbles around, she does cartwheels, she like, it's just all in the snow. And all the other March sisters are like watching out the window and they're like, that's our Jo. And she like tumbles in and then they do her little play, which is in so many adaptations, it's in the book, with like the mustache man and the swooning princess and stuff like that. This is a good setup of the characters. I like it a lot because Jo kind of bossing people around, some of the characters taking orders better than others, her kind of being a little harsher on Amy and telling her what to do. I like this representation of their characters. It's good. They do use their money to buy presents for Marmee on Christmas, and they also give their breakfast away, so charitable and awesome. Christian values, as we love them. And that is classic. That's in like a few of them, just to note. There is a moment, so I don't think it's in any other adaptation, but in this one, Jo, it's kind of known that like Jo likes to sit too close to the fire while she's reading. And so she like catches the backs of her dresses on fire. And in this one, this literally happens while she's with Laurie. And we have this really comical scene of her dress catching on fire and like she like stop, drops, and rolls. And Laurie, what does he even use? I don't know. Laurie grabs something, I don't even remember, to slap her motherfucking ass to get the fire out. And it's like comedy gold. Like, it's honestly so funny. I love it. There's none of the Amy Jo tension, but like I said, this is the same script as the previous version. So manuscript gate, not present. So also nothing about Amy and Laurie in Europe or more Meg plot lines. And Jo's book is called My Beth, which kind of rubs me the wrong way. I don't know, I don't like it. Anyway, we're giving story a 6. Characters! Okay, Jo is like super tomboy in this. And it's kind of like toxic masculinity a little bit. Like it's kind of like very, I don't know, very like, oh, girls can't do this. And it's just like her just like jumping around and climbing on things and like just like being very like physical, which I think is a way to show her character. Is it how I would do it? No. It's giving like very like clear, stark views between masculine and feminine, and I just like think it's stupid. Anyway, Laurie's kind of like not the best in this one. He doesn't really support Joe's dreams in the way that I would like him to. Like, she comes to him telling him about her like creative ambitions, and he's kind of just like, I just want to fuck you. Like, he's kind of like, why can't we just like make out? Like, he's kind of weird in this one. Marmee has some great lines and some great pearls of wisdom. I do love Marmee in this one, although she's not my favorite. There are so many good Marmies. I think that, again, talking about the supporting cast, Marmee is such a great character, and especially when she's like utilized, which I think she is in this one. She has some good pearls of wisdom, and I like her in that. And Amy spends a lot of the movie eating, which I think is a funny character addition, especially because she's meant to be like, she has like the little nose thing, which is meant to make her nose like thinner or whatever. She has that in this one, and she like does her hair in the rolling papers. That's weed. What? I don't know what they're called. So like, she is like very like girly and opposite of Joe, but like she also just like eats a ton in this movie, which is really funny. So I'm giving the characters a 6. We get into the worst category, which is romance. There is a lot of Joe-Laurie rejection in this one, which I think is like more than in other ones. At one point, Laurie puts his arms around Joe and she like snubs him, rejects him. I didn't ship them at all because I don't like Joe in this, but anyway. She doesn't really like show any interest in Laurie in this, so it's kind of weird like what he was thinking a little bit. But he does like try to get physical with her, which I just like think is gross, and she's not giving you the go ahead. So like, why consent? Maybe? Okay.
It's no use, Joe. We've got to have it out, and the sooner the better for both of us.
Say what you like then. I'll listen.
I've loved you ever since I've known you, Joe. Couldn't help it. I've tried to show you, but you wouldn't let me. Now I'm going to make you hear and give me an answer.
Amy also doesn't have a crush on Laurie in this. Like I said, same script as the last one. So there's no development on the relationship, like good or bad. And it comes out of nowhere when they get married. And then Joe's reaction to it. I think Joe's reaction to the news of Amy and Laurie getting married is really interesting in like as like a thought. But her reaction is so lame. Like, it's like so, it's not even like understated. It's like, it's just like not there, which is really boring. So we're giving romance a 0, which is leaving the 1949 Little Women adaptation at a score of 27 out of 50, or an F. And we're moving along to the only other Little Women adaptation that I did not watch, and that is Little Women 1978. So I'll just give you a brief description of it. Little Women is a 1978 American television miniseries, so not a movie this time, directed by David Lowell Rich and written by Suzanne Clauser, based on the same fucking book. The cast includes Susan Day, Meredith Baxter Briney, Ann Dunsonbury, Eve Plum, Dorothy McGuire, William Shaltert, Greer Garson, Robert Young, Richard Gilliam, William Shatner. William Shatner? Wait, who the fuck is William Shatner in this adaptation? Oh my god, he's Professor Bear. Anyway, so this is a lot of like the 70s darlings at the time. It's the Partridge Family people, it's the Brady Bunch people, it's like those types of people. So like, they're all like the famous actors of the time. Are we surprised? I don't know anything about this adaptation. I couldn't watch it though, which is a crime. But it did get an Emmy for Outstanding Art Direction for a series in 1979. I do wish I could watch it because it is a series and I think that's really interesting. This is the only out of 2 that have taken Little Women and made them series, which I think is really interesting, and I would be so fascinated to see how they do it, but I couldn't find it. I could not find it. So let's move on. We are moving on to the 1994 Little Women. This is directed by Gillian Armstrong and written by Gillian Armstrong and Robin Swickard. This received critical acclaim, grossed $95 million worldwide, 3 Academy Award nominations. This is just like banger after banger, which were Best Actress for Winona Ryder, Best Costume Design, and Best Original Score. It also was followed by a loose sequel, Little Men. Now, if you want me to get into the sequels and weird spin-offs of Little Women in a separate video, I will, because there are so many that I'm just so like shocked. There's all these like really random, low-budget Little Women spin-offs, and they're like never with these cast. So what are they about? I don't know. but I'm interested in finding out. It took this Little Women 12 years to find a studio, so obviously 1994, 78, that's a lot of time between Little Women adaptations. Apparently, this is a quote, people just weren't interested in a movie with a lot of women, which, like, yeah, I hate women too. The goal of this movie was to portray more mature themes than those of the previous adaptations, including family, growing up, and progressive feminism? Wait, is Little Women feminist? Yeah. It's shocking. Okay, and also notably, Armstrong decided not to look at any of the previous film adaptations for inspiration and just like read the novel, which is fabulous because the other ones were using the same goddamn script. So thank God she was like, let's actually look at the source material. Let's see what's there. Okay. It was primarily filmed in Vancouver and Vancouver Island, my home. And the overall aesthetic was influenced by photographs, paintings, and drawings from the Civil War era, which I think is so evident in the coloring and stuff of this movie. It's like very, anyway. And it was okay, this is super interesting to me. I don't know what to say about this, but I do want to tell you. The film was dedicated to murder victim Polly Claes and literary agent Judy Scott Fox. So I like looked into this and I don't know why. I don't know why they were dedicated to these people. I mean, obviously besides them being like recently dearly departed, but I don't understand. Let's move on to the summary. In the 1994 adaptation of Louisa May Alcott's classic, the March sisters confront growing pains, financial shortages, family tragedies, and romantic rivalries in the mid-19th century Massachusetts. I do want to note that they really wanted to make this version a modern adaptation. They were like, what was it? It's not gonna be Christmas if we don't have a car. That was like what they wanted to do for this, and I'm so glad they didn't do it. Winona Ryder struggles for independence and sometimes clashes with her beloved mother and her sisters Meg, Amy, and Beth. She also contends with her cranky Aunt March, their impulsive neighbor Laurie, Christian Bale, and kindly linguistics professor Frederick Bayer, Gabriel Bryan. I don't know. The cast is really good in this. I don't know why I didn't mention it, but I'll get to it. Let's move on to casting. This adaptation chooses to split Amy up into two characters. And how do I feel about that? And I don't like that. I have talked to some people who seem to prefer it, but this is the only, I'll get to it. This is the only adaptation that does this. And I just feel like there's a disconnect there, you know? Like we're watching one actress be Amy and then it switches like that. I'm not as connected to the character if it's a literal different fucking person. It's like you recast her in the middle of the movie. And it's also like, I don't know. I think a lot about Amy's character is a progression, a character development that grows over time. And so like completely having this jarring switch that's cut off, we don't get to see that growth. It's just kind of like, oh, she's grown up. Oh, she's grown up. She's a better person now. And it's like, no, not really. I also felt that Meg and the dad were not particularly stellar in this one, but that may have been due to their minimal screen time. They're kind of underdeveloped in this one. I'll give it the caveat of saying that. But notably, Winona Ryder, Christian Bale, Susan Sarandon, Claire Danes, standouts. Absolutely standouts. Like, I can't say enough good things about them. I do understand that this is like a beloved adaptation for a lot of people. I do have the VHS of this, thank you very much. So I do get it. And I think that they were like absolutely perfectly cast. And I will say now, Susan Sarandon is my pick for my dream cast as Marmee. That's my woman right there. And I'm giving the casting an 8. Moving on to direction, I really love how this film showed the changing of seasons. Like we constantly got like this exterior shot of the house, the cottage, and it was like snow or it was the falling leaves, and it just like really, like we just kept coming back to this one shot, and I love that it was like giving us the time, like telling us how much time had passed. The story spans over 8 years. I mean, some adaptations it's longer. So it spans like generally over like 8 years, and I loved how we showed the passage of time. The season's changing. It was gorgeous. It was like literally gorgeous to look at. Jill and Laurie dancing, this was one of my favorite scenes. I do wonder if Greta Gerwig like was taking inspiration from the way that this was kind of shot, and it was just like very playful. There's this one shot in it, I don't know, where it's like through the doorway and they're dancing, and it's so gorgeous and I love it. And I do in general love that scene. Also, something about this movie feels like distinctly 90s. I don't know, it looks like a 90s period drama. I like can't explain it to you, but I think that's something, it has to do with like the coloring of it, like the high contrast, like pops of red, backdrop of mostly like blues. and grays, like it just feels very 90s to me. I don't know why, but it's obviously a period piece. Anyway, I'm giving the direction an 8. Okay, so the story is super close to the book, so I don't have like that many notes on it. The timeline and the order of things all pretty much line up. I should have given this in one of my caveats, but I haven't read the book in a while. But that's okay. I do find that sticking so closely to the book really leaves you kind of sad towards the end, because I was about to be like, can I spoil it? What am I doing this entire video? Because Beth dies towards the end, and I just feel like that makes you sad towards the end, and I don't want that. I don't want to leave watching the movie sad. So anyway, I do think like Beth's character, which I'll get to it in the characters part, is underutilized. She doesn't have her whole piano thing at all with Mr. Lawrence. So she doesn't play the piano at his house. They do have a piano. They're constantly like doing a little song and dance. They are constantly playing piano and singing. And it's in like, it's this one and I think the 33 one, they're doing a lot of singing. Oh, and also the 2018 one, that's a different beast entirely. But they're doing a lot of singing in this one because they have a piano at their house, but she doesn't go to Mr. Lawrence's, which I think is sad, because that's like bad for Mr. Lawrence, bad for Beth, like sad. So I'm giving the story a 9 because it was actually very close to the book and I liked it. Meg, like I said, her character is underutilized. She's not in that many scenes. She doesn't have that much going on. She doesn't have the fabric plot line. She doesn't have a lot going on. Not enough time spent on her. Not enough time spent on Beth. Like I said, not enough going on there. And the character growth for Amy, like I said, it just kind of doesn't feel as natural, as progressive as there. So we're giving the characters a 7. Let's move on to the romance. I hate Amy and Laurie in this one, mostly because of the way that Laurie is acting in Europe. I know I didn't really talk about Laurie's character. I do like Laurie in this in general. And the jarring change of Amy, the actress, like doesn't mean that they have great chemistry, because they're literally like they're not on screen together much. Like Laurie has this weird entitlement to the March family. He's like, I always knew I was gonna be a part of the March family one way or another. And like, yeah, he's like drunk when he's saying this, but like that's fucking weird. That's weird. That's fucked up. I don't know. I don't like it.
Oh, no. Teddy, don't. No, Teddy, we have to talk about this reasonably.
I have loved you since the moment I clapped eyes on you. What could be more reasonable than to marry you?
Joe and Professor Bayer, he could actually be her dad if you think about it. And obviously this is like what Louisa May Alcott was intending. Like she was goofing and gagging on us all actually, because in my research, and something I already knew, was that many people were writing into Louisa May Alcott after she wrote the first volume, and the first volume of Little Women came out, and they were like, I want Joe to marry Laurie, and she was like, no. She was actually not like, fuck you, that's not happening. And so she created this Professor Bayer character to like kind of like fuck with everyone and be like, no, she's gonna marry this old ass guy. Just why not? So I do like the purpose of it, but it just like, it takes me out of the story a little bit. His character doesn't differ too much from Laurie, like the way that they interact, their like dynamic doesn't differ too much from Laurie, so it's kind of like, why didn't she just go for Laurie? I don't know. The only points in this are being given to Meg and the tutor, Mr. Brooke, because they're all right. Their plotline is cute. It's basically the same as the books. The courting, the glove, things like that. And I like them. We're giving it a 5. Giving the 1994 Little Women adaptation a total score of 37 out of 50. Let's move on. Why do I have so many notes on this one? Little Women 2017. We have the only other mini-series. Cast and crew, let's talk about it. Emily Watson, Maya Hawke, Willa Fitzgerald, and Elwie and Catherine Newton, directed by Vanessa Caswell and written by Heidi Thomas. This came out on BBC One in 2018. It came out like right after Christmas, like I'm gonna say like the 26th, on Boxing Day, if you will. Let's talk about the summary. Semi-autobiographical coming-of-age drama centers on 4 very different sisters, and they embark on a journey from childhood to adulthood during the American Civil War. With the help of their mother Marmee, Jo, Meg, Beth, and Amy, March navigate what it means to be a young woman, experiencing everything from sibling rivalry and first love to loss and marriage, set in Concord, Mass, the 3-episode series, This is really interesting because it is a series, and so I feel like it's such a different vibe. Let's get to casting. There were huge gets in this. Huge gets as casting goes, particularly with the older cast members. like Marmy's character and Mr. Lawrence and Aunt March, like absolutely perfect. So we've got Angela Lansbury, we've got Emily Watson, as I already said, we got Michael Gambon, literally so great. And I will say, I'm taking Michael Gambon off the table. He is my dream cast. Mr. Lawrence, he's, yeah. And I will also say that this Meg, Willa Fitzgerald, is also in my dream cast. I love her. I just really feel like they embody the characters really well. I just feel like the wholesomeness and the warmth of the series are just like so present. They're so cozy. The series is so cozy to me. And I love it. I think all the sisters were really cast really well. They have a great like camaraderie and dynamic and banter, and like it just really adds to like the comfort of this show. Like it feels like you're just like stepping into the March family, like not that they're just being established for the movie or the show. So we're giving casting a 9. All right, moving on to direction. It's like a gorgeous show. It's really, there's so much like time and care spent on each character. There's so many like character developing shots of just like them by themselves doing something that's defining of their character. There's not like crazy like interesting like standout things that I can like remember or like risks taken, but there's like a really fine like attention to detail in the show. I love it. Direction is given an 8. Moving on to the story. So the first 2 episodes are so good. So good. Aside, I hate to say this. I hate to say it. It doesn't have the dancing scene. I hate to say it. It doesn't have the dancing scene between Joe and Lori and Joe. And it doesn't have like the putting on the plays and the literary club. Like it's missing a few things. Okay. But this is like a very like character focused story. It's like, as much as Little Women to me is a character focused story, this is like very little plot. Very little plot going. I think they took a different approach to the story, which is like what I was saying. Like it reminded me a lot of like Anne with an E versus like Anne of Green Gables, like the 80s version versus the 2010s version. And I just like felt like everything was really like stretched out, and we just like got a lot of time to like stay in scenes and stay with characters, and the pacing was like really enjoyable to me. But then the 3rd episode happened and I actually hated everything about it. The 3rd episode just like changed the timeline of like literally everything. I didn't even write down like what exactly like bothered me so much about it, but it just changed like everything about it, and I get to it later. But like it just wrecked everything we set up in the first 2 episodes. So for that reason, we're giving it a 6.5 for story. Characters. So unlike other adaptations where, like I said, I feel like Jo, she's the main character, you know? But this one, I felt like they really tried to equally focus on everyone. Not even just like all of the March sisters, which like makes sense. They had like a balanced POV. But then we also got like so much like perspective of like the dad, of Marmee, of Mr. Brooke, of all people. Like we got so many like little asides of like them going on their own journeys. And I feel like because it was a mini-series, we just had the time to be able to do this, and because it wasn't like focused so much on story, we just got so much character building, which was really awesome. Some standout things that were different from other adaptations were we saw Beth at home grappling with going to Mr. Lawrence's, you know, her anxiety and just being shy and overcoming like going to a new person's house. We saw Amy staying at Aunt March's and her at school as well. We had a lot of scenes of Jo writing at her desk with like Lori in the background, or one of her sisters or her mom in the background. And then we had Meg making jam. So a lot of like great scenes that are not in other adaptations. Like I said, like everyone had like a fully realized POV. Marmee had like great discussions with her daughters about like letting them go and being the matriarch of like dealing with her husband at war and like dealing with anger, and like their dad was revealed to like not just be a minister but also like a writer, so he could like connected with Jo on like another level. Mr. Brooke goes off to war to like prove himself to Meg, and then gets injured and like gets married and comes back, and like it's a whole thing. Mr. Lawrence is so soft and gentle in this. Like I know he's in Harry Potter, and like that does give me a little bit of a bias, but like he's like so gorgeous. Like his whole thing of he has 2 pianos in this. He has like the piano that's like the grand like one that's like everyone plays on, and then he has like the one special little tiny one that like his daughter used to play on, and then he gives that one to Jo. Like that, it's gorgeous. I love it. Marge also has some great moments. Like she talks to Meg about like her marrying John, and like she gives her pearls. Like it's really sweet, and she's not like a huge asshole like she is in another version, so that's nice. I do really love Jo in this one. Lastly, like I have to say it, like she's headstrong, and she's like annoyed about how she has such a hot head and a temper, but then she also just like has this really like sweet tender relationship with her sisters, and I think like the way she like grows and matures over the course of the series is really evident. I read some like people's reviews that they said that Amy felt like murderous in this one. Like she didn't just feel mean, she felt like she had murderous intentions, and I do think she's more devious in this. but I thought she was good. I don't know. So I gave the characters an 8. Moving on to the romance, Laurie is like particularly friend-zoned in this one. There are so many times where he like has these tender moments. He's like stroking her hair, he's holding her hand, he's like, they're like leaning on each other for like emotional and physical support, and she just like keeps rejecting him. Like Joe is constantly rejecting him. He even at one point like kisses her and she just like takes it, like, and then she's like, let's not do that. Let's actually, like, let's be friends, let's not do that. They don't have the iconic dancing scene, which is a crime, but they do have like a lot of like good scenes together. They're bickering, they're like confiding in each other. They have like a really good stuff. They did mess up the "it's no use Joe" scene.
Joe, we're going to have this out.
Have what out?
I've loved you ever since I've known you, and I can't help it, even though I've tried.
Laurie, I don't want to have this conversation.
I know you don't.
Because they place it differently in the timeline. It was like after she went to New York, and it was like also about her being with the professor low-key, and he also just like breaks down in tears during the scene, and he gets really angry. Like, I feel like the way it was played, the way it was directed, like it did not make any sense to me, and I really didn't like it. The Amy and Laurie stuff is set up from the beginning, so I do really appreciate that, because like they show like the building of their relationship. Like, Amy doesn't necessarily display a crush on Laurie like from the beginning, but they do have a really sweet relationship with each other, and he's actually the one to try to rescue her from the lake, and he like comes to visit her when she's staying at Aunt March's, and they're like very sweet together, and they talk and they have like bonded and whatever. They in general don't love them. I think they were better than in other adaptations. They put in the effort. It also rubbed me the wrong way when Laurie came back to Joe after marrying her sister, saying that they switched places in his heart. That doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. We're giving the romance of the 2017 version 7 out of 10. And that leaves this version with a total score of 38.5 out of 50. Let's move on to the 2018 version. I did not want to watch this one. I really didn't want to watch this because I knew it was going to be bad, and I don't like putting myself through that. I'm gonna go through it quickly. Okay, so Little Woman 2018, it's produced by Pure Flix, which is a Christian production company. They made VeggieTales, they made God Is Not Dead, really crazy shit. It's directed by Claire Niederpuram, and also written by her and Christy Smick. It grossed $747,000, finishing 16th in the box office. And one review said, "The girls in this contemporary retelling are not messy and complex human beings, but Hallmark Channel characters, two-dimensional symbols of virtuous nostalgia." And that's how it feels. This is the only modern adaptation of it, so let's get into the summary. From girls playing in the attic to women living with purpose, the March sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, are always committed to supporting one another. When Jo moves to New York to pen a novel, her editor challenges her to write about something more interesting, her family. When tragedy brings the siblings back home, sticking together takes a whole new meaning as Jo tries to confront Beth when she gets sick. I said confront and I meant comfort. Let's get to casting! My man Ryan from High School Musical is in this movie. Cast as Laurie, and like, it's not like, okay, not only is he too old to play this man, but like, they put him all these gay ass hats. He is not a straight man. Like, it's so confusing. And like, we are 10 years out from him taking Kelsey to prom in High School Musical 3 senior year. So like, there's no way he's showing up at this high school prom. Like, it's no big deal. Like, it's crazy to me. Leah Thompson is Marmee in this, and she is a national treasure. Like, I stand by that. But they don't give her like a lot to work with, so it's not her fault, but she's great and I love her. Beth is low-key giving Hazel grace, and I don't know how to explain that exactly, but I wrote this down before I knew that she had cancer. I was thinking that pre-cancer diagnosis in the movie, so just want to get that out there. Jo is played by the actress who played the sister to the main character in Stitchers, which is a forgotten gem of a show that I would 100% make a video on if anyone remembered it. Stitchers, did everyone watch that? Was it just me? I loved that show. There's younger versions of all the girls, and I want to say that there's 3 Amy's. There could be just 2, but I feel like there was 3. And the older one, the older Amy, does not come into the movie until the last 30 minutes. This is what I'm saying about having multiple Amy's. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Troy Bolton's dad is also the dad in this, so I give it like kind of a bonus point for being a High School Musical reunion, low-key. So we're giving casting a 6. Direction's fine. Like, I don't know. I don't have anything to say about it. There is this one scene that like literally looks like it was like shot on a DS. Like, I don't know. There's this one scene where Jo, Laurie, and Meg are in the car after the New Year's Eve party, and it just like, it's shaky and it's like out of focus and it's really weird. But we're giving it a 7.5 for direction. Okay, so this movie was kind of written by ChatGPT getting into the story. It's really hard to compare the plot, but like here's some modern day swaps I did not care for. The Gentleman's Club, which is like the literary club, the one where they're writing stories and they're pretending to be gentlemen in the story, is an army club in this one. So they're like, yes, cadet, yes, soldier. And they're like, clean your fucking room. Like, I don't really know. My dad keeps butt dialing me, which is really funny to me. So Beth's scarlet fever is cancer. Joe goes to UMass Lowell. And Meg gets drunk and nearly assaulted at prom. Yeah, I don't know how that works. This is the most 2010s looking and sounding movie you've ever seen. Like everything, like it's a period piece actually. It also like doesn't understand anything about publishing. Like Joe's going to a professor to try to publish her book and he's also her editor and he's also her love interest. It's also non-linear, which is cool. It's kind of similar to 2019 in that version. They keep saying they're broke, but they don't seem broke. Joe shaves her head in solidarity with Beth, but then it has no impact on the plot. There's a lot of songs in the movie. This through line of Joe saying she wants to do all the things, which is like not important or impactful. It's like a really stupid and vague way to say that. And then Joe gets married at the end actually. Joe is annoying. She's like everyone I hated in my creative writing major. She's antagonistic. She has no chill. She actually like has never gotten anything in her entire life. Meg is fucking dull. She's like a trad wife. She's fucking annoying. Burke's place in the story is odd. Like he's like a manny. He's like a nanny. I don't know. Amy's just annoying, like little sister vibes, like bare minimum. I don't know. Aunt March is like nowhere to be seen. She's like barely in this movie. Laurie's a musician. He actually plays music. Well, because he was in High School Musical. That's why. He breaks out into song when he first meets the Marches, in case you didn't want to. I don't fucking know. And Marmy's like low-key my mom. That's her character. We're giving characters too. Romance. They really lean into Joe and the professor. Like this is established from the beginning. I don't see that together, but like he's also her editor. And I don't know, they don't have a spike of chemistry. Laurie and Joe are weird together, they're friends. There's also cough cough, no development or on-screen relationship between Amy and Laurie. It's revealed that they got together in England. Sure, she had a crush on him as a child, but he was 47 in my eyes and they were like siblings. Romance is a 2.5. Giving Little Women 2018 a total score of 21 out of 50, a solid F. And we simply must move on to the final and most recent Little Women adaptation, the one we all know and love, Little Women 2019. Let's just like hop into the facts. So obviously it's written and directed by Greta Gerwig. First of all, great fact. Here we have the cast. We have Saoirse Ronan, Emily Watson, which is her final film to date, which I found in my research and I was like, huh, she has not made another movie since. Probably because this was such a banger. Yeah. Florence Pugh, Eliza Scanlon, Laura Dern, Timothy Chalamet, Meryl Streep, many other people. I was like, I could read the rest and then I was like, no. So this was like kind of a long ongoing process. They basically wanted to make a Little Women for the 2010s. Forget about the 2018 and 2017 one, but they wanted to make a movie version for the 2010s. And so Sony Pictures initiated the development of the film in 2013. Greta Gerwig was not initially attached to the project, but she basically made a huge case for herself. She was like, this is the story that made me want to be a writer, so I actually need to be attached to this project. She did it, and she did. It was just kind of a long process, and then the final like filming actually took place from October to December of 2018, all in Massachusetts, where I am. And then editing started right after. This got 6 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actress, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Original Score, and Best Costume Design, which it actually won for. So like I said, Greta Gerwig started like writing the script in Big Sur. She started writing it after the 2018 Academy Awards, and she used Alcott's letters, as well as 19th century paintings of young women for inspiration, which is kind of similar to the 1994 version if you're keeping tabs, if you're keeping up. It was featured on Time's list of 100 best movies of the past 10 decades, and they wrote that the writing of this film is proof that there are new ways to tell old stories, ensuring that they live far beyond our own preoccupations, tastes, never becoming last season's old, out-modeled gowns, which is kind of iconic. Grossed $108.1 million in the US and Canada, and very cool. Did very good things. People love it. People love it. You probably clicked on this video. I'm not gonna lie to you. You probably clicked on this video because this is the only Little Women adaptation you've seen. And that's okay. I had to watch all the other ones. You don't have to. So let's hop into the summary. So we have, in the years after the Civil War, Jo March lives in New York and makes her living as a writer while her sister Amy studies painting in Paris. Amy has a chance encounter with Theodore, a childhood crush who proposed to Jo but was ultimately rejected. Their oldest sibling Meg is married to a school teacher, while shy sister Beth develops a devastating devastating illness that brings the family back together. So super interesting that this is the summary because it's all set in like the later timeline, and I just find that fascinating because like it is this kind of weaving together of like bringing you up to date, but also giving you the context and the background of the last 6 years, something like that. Let's hop in to the scores for this movie. It's gonna surprise no one that the casting is actually perfect. Hopping into the casting, this cast is perfect. It is absolutely perfect. There were other casts, and I almost included that in my notes, but like there were other people like in talks and who like turned down roles in this movie who are big names as well. Notably like Emma Stone was supposed to play Meg instead of Emma Watson. They were like Emma for an Emma, I don't know. And like there were some other like swaps, but this cast is perfect, I have to say. I love that we have the same Amy. This is the only modern adaptation where we have the same Amy. Well, this is the only modern movie adaptation where we have the same Amy. Just comparing this to the 94 adaptation. And I love that we see her growth as the same actress because she's playing the part the entire time. Obviously, our Joe and Laurie have perfect chemistry. It's almost like they've been in a movie together before. They have perfect chemistry. Like they are so, like they need to be so comfortable with each other, and they really are in this movie. They need to be like kind of brother and sister, and that helps with the devastation of the rejection, but also with just the getting to know their relationship, like and seeing that really fast. And I also love Emma Watson as Meg. I feel like she really, I mean, since like being a huge star in like the early aughts, I feel like she has picked and chosen her roles really intentionally, and this is like such a great role for her. I love it so much. And we also have an expansion of the Greta Gerwig cinematic multiverse because the publisher in this movie is Lady Bird's dad. Think about that. Because I picked up on that and I was like, oh my god, I love him. I'm giving casting a 10, but I'm also taking my last two. I know you were wondering the whole time, you're saying, who's Pia's favorite Joe? Who's Pia's favorite Laurie? And I will tell you right now, this movie has my favorite Joe and my favorite Laurie. It's tough. There are so many great Joes and so many great Lauries. 94, especially 2017, those are like in contention to me. But Timothée Chalamet as Laurie is my favorite. I think he's nuanced. I think he's silly and fun, but also like buttoned up in a way, like towards the end it shows real growth after like meeting Amy and like straightening my tie in a way. And I think also Joe has such a like raw like feeling in this one. That's all to say about the character, but I think the casting is perfect. And I love Saoirse Ronan as Joe. Moving on to direction, I love you, Greta. I love you, Greta. I will never say a bad word about Greta Gerwig. You will never catch me saying a bad word. She's one of my absolute favorite directors. And I know a lot of like women say that, and we love to discount women when they say things like that. I've been there since Lady Bird. There are some like things, some real fun choices that she made in this movie that I do want to highlight. She like slows down. She does slow-mo for a couple of moments that are like character building moments. Notably like in the beginning, it's like one of the first shots. Joe is like running through the street and like, you know, she's either, I can't remember if she's running to the publisher or if she's running from it and going home. I don't remember, but it's just like, it just shows like her playfulness and her energy and her spunk, and like it's slowed down for these character building moments, and then it's also slowed down when she's like dancing with the professor and like things like that, just to like really highlight the importance of these moments and like get us to literally slow down and pay attention to them. And then also, of course, there's the scene in Laurie's study when all the girls come in, and it's just like such a like there's so many great moments in there, and we're focused on so many different things at once. Like it seems like it would be hard to like have such an ensemble in a scene, but we really get the perspective of each and every single one. We see, oh, his eyes are looking over here, but his eyes are looking over there, and she's focused on this, and she's focused on that. And that whole scene is really interesting. There's a whole video. Okay, Vanity Fair did a video breaking down this scene where they like talk about it in depth, and I've watched it a few times. And I just wanted to highlight that scene as one thing that I really love. Obviously the dancing scene, but it's very reminiscent of the 94 one, but I do think it has a little bit of like modern energy and flair to it that the 94 one didn't. Like in the 1994 one, they're dancing pretty traditionally, but in this one they do kind of like break out of it, and it just kind of like, it's the first time of it's their first time meeting, but they're already like so interconnected, and I really love that. There is, okay, the one thing that I don't like about the, like, it's probably one of the very few things I don't like about this movie. Other than that, like, you're gonna see, this is not a perfect movie. I love this movie, but It's not perfect, so I will criticize one thing about it. Absolutely, just like one thing. And that is when people are like reading letters in this movie, we get a shot, a solo shot of the person who wrote the letter just standing or sitting, it depends, speaking directly to camera and saying what's in the letter. And I just think this takes you out of it so much. Like, it's so weird and off-putting. It kind of feels like it's breaking the fourth wall. And it's, I want to say it happens 2 or 3 times in the movie. And each time it happens, I'm like, what, like, why? Like, let us just read the letter. Like do a voiceover of them in their voice, or have it be read, you know, like, whatever. Like, there are so many ways you can do, like, reading a letter, but I really don't like the way that she did it. With that being said, only love and respect to Greta Gerwig. Thank you very much. So we're giving direction a 9. It only lost 1 point for that. I'm just saying. Moving on to the story, like, the best way I can describe this is it's everything and more. Like, it takes everything you need from the Little Women story, and it also takes, you know, those things from the journals of Louisa May Alcott, those things from her kind of her being Greta Gerwig, her interest and research into what it was like being a woman at the time, and it puts them all together. So it really is everything and more. I do want to mention, in one of the screenwriting classes I took in college, which now feels like literally 400 years ago, in one of the screenwriting classes I took in college, we literally studied this script. And when I tell you, I don't know, if you've read scripts before, I don't know, they may seem like a really like dull, boring thing to read, but reading this script, it is wow. It is so, I just implore you to like look it up and just maybe even like read the first page. Like, it is the only time in my college career where I maybe learned something of value. And I think one of the most like impressive and noteworthy things about the additions in this script are like Amy's great or nothing speech and Joe's women speech, which are both like really quotable, and like, I mean, they're different than any other adaptation because they're really delving into character. And it's like, the script is so full, like it feels like so jam-packed. There's so much talking and so many key little things, especially like with the scenes with the sisters, which I love, especially like in the flashbacks. There's a lot of them kind of like talking in rapid succession or talking over each other, and there's these little like things that they're saying. One thing I'm thinking of in particular is like when Amy's like making the cast of her foot, she's like, I have such lovely feet, I'm gonna make them a cast of my foot, and it feels like completely brushed over because no one's like paying attention to her, but like it's so interesting. And there's just so many little like moments like that. Each character, everything they say out of their mouth like feels like their character. And I think the only notable difference is the way that Joe's manuscript gets published in this movie. In every other adaptation, well, in pretty much every other adaptation, she gives the manuscript, she sends the manuscript to Professor Bayer, and he has a publishing friend, Nepo Baby, publishes it. And I don't know, it's fine, it's all well and good. It's all well and good, it's fine. But in this one, I do like the way that they have changed it because they put the power into Joe's hands, that she is like shopping around her manuscript. She is like having the meetings with the people in publishing, and then it's essentially the publisher's daughter's decision to publish this book. So then it's even more kind of empowering to women, their own Little Women, if you will, and it's feminist, and I love it. So I do love that. We're giving story a 10 out of 10. I mean, are we surprised? When it comes to characters, I do feel like there was special attention paid to Amy's character in this movie that wasn't there in other films. I think a lot of people see her as kind of the villain of the story, at least when they're reading it, or watching some of the other movies. Like, she can be kind of just like an unlikable character. But in this version, we see her depth and like clear motivations, and we have a lot more like empathy for her in her situation. She just has the same situation but a different way of going about it as, say, Joe. And I do feel like Joe and her are kind of like opposing forces in other movies, but in this one they are kind of more highlighted as being similar, which I really like. Similarly, I do think there was also a lot more attention to Joe's character, but also making her more like Louisa May Alcott than she was already, which this is already a semi-autobiographical story, but Greta really took care to make Jo even more like the author than she is in the books, which gives her more dimension, obviously being based on a real character, a real person, hello. And rather than her just being like a tomboy, she has this whole monologue about loneliness, which is like one of my favorite things in the movie. I think it also carries forth the idea of Jo being like a queer character, queer in the academic sense, not necessarily in the LGBTQIA+ sense, but queer in the academic sense. And it emphasizes all like her different ways, all the different ways that you can read her. Like she's quite ambiguous in the movie, so that it's kind of up to your interpretation of like her desire or lack thereof for her friend. And I'm giving characters a 9 out of 10. And finally, we have the romance. I'm going to say this is probably the best, most well done romance for Little Women has been.
No. No.
It's no use, Jo.
Please
Jo, we've
don't.
got to have it out.
No.
I have loved you ever since I've known you, Jo. I couldn't help it. And I tried to show and you wouldn't let me, which is fine.
No.
But I must make you here now and give me an answer because I cannot go on like this any longer.
Please.
I don't think it's perfect by any means, but I never liked the romance in Little Women. I hate to say it. When I read the book, I was like mad. I remember like going to my mom. I was like, why is Amy marrying Laurie? Like, what? Why is Jo marrying this random professor? And she was like, yeah, I know. And it's like, I do love that we can kind of commiserate over like being angry and having these big reactions to those things that were published so long ago. I think that's awesome. But I do think because of Amy's character development in this one, her connection to Laurie is a lot more palatable than other adaptations. Like she's not like, she doesn't feel like a child by the time they're getting together. We see her growth in character. We also see like his growth as well and how much he's changed over the course of the movie, which I don't really touch too much on in my notes, but like after being rejected by Jo, he seems to kind of go on a little bit of a bender, where he finds Amy and then low-key finds himself. So I do think there's like a real kinship between them in Europe. I think it's so important that we get to see them in Europe. I think it's crazy how other adaptations, we literally don't see them in Europe. Although I will never fully support this union, I just won't. And I just, like at the end of the day, I think it's simply weird. And I do feel the thing I always come back to is I feel bad for Amy because she is a second choice and I don't like that. But I do like them together in this movie. I think Amy deserves to be someone's first choice, but I do think there's a nice simplicity of like Laurie ending up in the March family. I think that like makes sense. So I like it in this. I don't hate it, whatever. Let's get into the changes of Jo's romantic plotline because they're super interesting to me. And there's a lot of them. Like the author, Louisa May Alcott, Jo's intention is never to get married or have a happy romantic ending. And she says that to her publisher, that she's like, this story that I'm telling, I don't want there to be that for this Jo character. And it's kind of like interesting of like breaking the fourth wall of Jo the author and Jo the character, and Louisa May Alcott the author and Louisa May Alcott the character. So it's interesting that she says that. She's like, I don't want to do that, which is literally from Lou, our girl. But then they give Jo this hot love interest, which I guess makes it like slightly more believable that she could be like swayed. I don't know. Is that saying that if a man is hot, an aromantic / asexual / lesbian girl will go for him? I don't know. I don't know about that. But I do think that it is trying to tie up the loose ends of the narrative in a way that makes more sense rather than having Jo end up with some old fool, which is the intention of the book. But it's more of like a trick that Louisa May Alcott was playing on her was playing on her readers rather than like how the story would make sense to end. Also harkens back to the darker thing of the realities between Jo, the writer of Little Women, and Jo in the story, which I think is really interesting. I don't want to delve too into it, but like the more I think about it, the more like the threads are unraveling. I don't know. I think it allows for like 2 possible endings, which I don't know if other people like think about this when they watch the ending of this movie. But I think there's this one ending of Jo as the accomplished writer saying that she's gonna write this happy ending for this character. And then there's the kind of like fictional ending for Jo of her finding love and companionship. But that's fictional for the writer who's writing it. And I think that's really interesting because like one's real and one's not. but they're both in the movie going with one thing that will please her audience and like going with her heart. So I think it's really interesting because we kind of have Jo's perspective of her telling us this story, and she's saying, let me tell you this story about Jo, and she ended up married and she ended up with this hot professor, but Jo herself was more than content to not be that way. It's really interesting. I don't know, I think about it a lot, but I'm ending up giving the romance in Little Women 2019 8.5 out of 10. That leaves Little Women 2019 with a total score of 46.5 out of 50 and a rating of an A. I have a few final notes. I will put up my bracket here if you want to see how I did the bracket. I don't know. I don't necessarily know how a bracket works, but I did make one because I couldn't call this March Sisters Madness without actually making a March Madness bracket. So for my dream cast, just a quick recap, we have Saoirse Ronan as Jo, Willa Fitzgerald as Meg, Elizabeth Taylor as Amy, Margaret O'Brien as Beth, Susan Sarandon as Marmee, Timothée Chalamet as Laurie, Meryl Streep as Aunt March. Oh, I didn't mention that. Obviously, she's in my dream cast, I love her. And Michael Gambon as Mr. Lawrence. I was asking myself the question while I was watching these movies, is like, is there going to be another adaptation? Or like, what would another Little Women adaptation look like? And I've thought about it a lot since writing those down. I was like, which is more culturally significant? Why has the story been adapted so much? Like, how is it timeless? And I think I have kind of answered those questions in analyzing each movie. I hate to say this because I don't know, but I don't think that there will be another true adaptation of Little Women in my lifetime. And I know that's crazy to say. I know that's crazy to say, but I do think that like, we have kind of gotten everything out of it. I do think, however, that there will be different adaptations. I think that there will be retellings of Little Women. I have read, and I have a lot of like Little Women retellings on my TBR. Little Women retellings have come out, and they're so interesting, taking the story, putting it in the 20s and putting it in modern day and putting it with a full cast of people of color, and like there's so many like different spins that people have been doing in literature about Little Women, but I haven't seen that on screen. So I do think that is the pivot that I think we'll see, that I think the next Little Women adaptation will be a retelling. I think it might be queer. I think it might be more diverse. I don't necessarily think it will be modern day, but maybe in a different time period, a different context. I do think those are the kind of like next things that I anticipate seeing from this story. Not because I don't think that like anything else can be found in this. I just think that we have Little Women'd out, and that's understandable after watching like 8 adaptations of it. But I don't think that a true adaptation of the original text is going to be made again and saying something different. I think that each of these adaptations has a different intention based on the time period that it's coming out, but I don't think that there will be more like that. I just don't think there will be. So those are my thoughts about that. I did kind of briefly mention, but like the older adaptations have the girls like in a lot of heavy makeup, which is conducive of the time period that they were making film, because they wanted like the actresses to stand out. They were wearing black lipstick and whatnot to get them to like really stand out on camera. But I do think it's kind of like jarring because like these bitches are broke in the Civil War, and like Jo especially like is a top, like she's not gonna be wearing makeup and stuff like that. So I think that like the way that they are kind of like barefaced and like have wispy hair and stuff like that, and like in the more recent adaptations seems to make more sense to me. Like, these poor girls couldn't afford coffee. Do you think they could afford eyeliner? I also would like to pitch for the 2019 adaptation. I would like to pitch to Timothée Chalamet fans, I know I have you sat here with me right now, to explore the option of mustache Laurie while he's in Europe, like how Christian Bale adopts facial hair while he's away to show his character deterioration after being rejected by Jo. So what if we had little rat-faced Timothée Chalamet with a mustache in Europe? Would we still want him to end up with Amy? I don't know, that's what I'm thinking. I also just think that it's interesting how much my appreciation and love for the Little Women movies changed after the 90s adaptation, because they were being directed by women. I hate to say it, I hate to point it out, but before that they were being directed by men, and I think that there's something weird about that. And then also, let's come back to the weird spin-off Little Women adjacent movies at some point in the future because I want to talk about them, I want to watch them, I want to see what they're about, and I think they're a weird little world that I would like to investigate. Exhausted probably everything I need to say about Little Women, but let me know your favorite Little Women adaptation in the comments, or if you've only seen one, which one you would like to watch after watching this video. If you disagree with any of my ratings, please let me know. I'm just a girl, this is my one opinion. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!